On September 7, 1927, a 21-year-old farm boy from Idaho transmitted the first electronic television image, a single straight line, in a San Francisco laboratory. His name was Philo Farnsworth. He had sketched the idea on a blackboard at 14 while plowing a field. RCA offered him $100,000 for the patent. He refused. They spent the next decade trying to steal it, lost in court, and then gave someone else credit. The Radio and Television Manufacturers Association named David Sarnoff, the RCA executive who fought Farnsworth, the father of television. The man who actually invented electronic television died in 1971, largely forgotten, having never received a cent of royalty from the device that reshaped human civilization. In 1950, 9% of American homes had a television. By 1960, it was 90%. No technology in history had ever penetrated a society that fast. Not the printing press. Not the telephone. Not the automobile. In a single decade, a glowing box in the living room became the center of American life, and then the world's. The first television commercial aired on July 1, 1941. Bulova watch. 9 seconds. It cost $9. Today a 30-second Super Bowl spot costs $7 million. That arc, from $9 to $7 million, is the story of how television consumed the attention of an entire species and sold it to the highest bidder. Now remove it. No television. No screen in the living room. No evening news. No sitcoms. No reality shows. No 24-hour cable. What happens? Start with politics. On September 26, 1960, 70 million Americans watched the first televised presidential debate between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon. Kennedy was tanned, calm, and looked directly into the camera. Nixon was recovering from illness, refused makeup, and sweated visibly under the studio lights. The visual contrast was devastating. Television did not just broadcast the debate, it made appearance a permanent requirement for political power. Before 1960, a president needed a good voice and strong arguments. After 1960, a president needed to look good on camera. Without television, elections are fought through radio, newspapers, and in-person rallies. Franklin Roosevelt's fireside chats remain the gold standard of political communication. Charisma is measured by voice, not face. Abraham Lincoln, homely by all accounts, would have no disadvantage in this world. Politicians are judged by what they say, not how they look while saying it. In May 1963, television cameras filmed Police Commissioner Bull Connor ordering fire hoses and attack dogs turned on black children marching in Birmingham, Alabama. The footage was broadcast to the nation. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Those images are directly credited with building the public support that led to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Without television, these events still happen. Newspapers still report them. But a photograph in tomorrow's paper does not hit the same way as moving footage in your living room tonight. The civil rights movement built its strategy around television, staging confrontations that would look unconscionable on camera. Without the camera, the strategy changes. Progress still happens, but slower. Much slower. On July 20, 1969, an estimated 650 million people, 1/5 of every human being alive, watched Neil Armstrong step onto the moon. It was the largest shared experience in human history up to that point. The moon landing was not just a scientific achievement. It was a television event. Without TV, only the people in the control room and a radio audience know what happened. The emotional weight of watching it, the collective human moment, does not exist. Vietnam was called the Living Room War, the first conflict broadcast directly into American homes through nightly news. Footage of burning villages, body bags, and a Saigon general executing a prisoner on the street forced Americans to confront the reality of what their government was doing. Whether that footage directly changed public opinion is debated by historians. What is not debated is that it changed the relationship between citizens and war permanently. In 1987, the Federal Communications Commission repealed the Fairness Doctrine, a rule that had required broadcasters to present controversial issues with balance. Within a year, Rush Limbaugh launched his nationally syndicated radio show. Within a decade, Fox News and MSNBC had carved the American media landscape into two opposing camps. The repeal did not just change television. It changed democracy. The shared reality that 3 evening news broadcasts had provided, Walter Cronkite telling the entire country the same facts at the same time, fractured into 1,000 competing narratives. Without television, this fracture does not happen in the same way. Radio has opinion shows and partisan newspapers exist. But the 24-hour visual barrage of partisan content, designed to provoke maximum emotional reaction, does not exist without the medium that delivers it. In 1961, FCC Chairman Newton Minow watched television for an entire day. He called it a vast wasteland. That was when there were 3 channels. He could not have imagined 500. He could not have imagined streaming. He could not have imagined that his vast wasteland would become the ocean that drowned every other medium. Robert Putnam's landmark study Bowling Alone found that television was the single most consistent predictor of civic disengagement in America. People who watched more television volunteered less, attended fewer community meetings, had fewer dinner parties, and knew fewer of their neighbors. Putnam estimated that television accounted for roughly a quarter of the decline in American civic life after 1965. Americans currently watch approximately 3 hours of television per day. Adults over 65 watch over 6 hours. More than half of all leisure time in America is spent in front of a screen that a farm boy from Idaho invented when he was 21. Without television, the world is quieter. Radio dramas still gather families. Movie theaters are packed. Weekly attendance, which peaked at 90 million in 1948 before television gutted it, never declines. Newspapers are still the primary source of daily information. People read more. Studies from the Netherlands show that book reading declined by half during the initial television era. Without TV, that decline never happens. But without television, 1 billion people do not watch Nelson Mandela walk free. They do not see the Berlin Wall fall in real time. They do not watch the towers collapse on September 11. 80 million Americans watched the evening news that night, and the country averaged 8 hours of television per day for the following week. Shared grief, shared shock, shared awareness of what is happening on the other side of the world, all of it depends on a device that turns distant events into something that happens in your home. Philo Farnsworth was watching television on July 20, 1969, when his wife turned to him and said, "Phil, there it is. That thing you invented. All those years of struggle, and now it's showing mankind setting foot on the moon." He watched his invention show humanity at its best. He had also watched it sell cigarettes, manufacture consent, and turn politics into performance. The vast wasteland. The greatest shared experiences in human history. Both true. Both television.